Serious, Redditors who spend a lot of time working in isolation, research stations etc. What are your creepiest experiences? I work in a building that is high security because we have a lot of expensive equipment. If you want to get to my office you have to walk through 4 doors that require keycard access. It's very quiet and sterile. White walls, nobody around, very little furniture, grey floors, open ceilings so you can see the ducts. Sounds echo. I was working alone and noticed that there was a guy in the building. He was wearing the same shirt that maintenance wears, but it was weird because it was really late at night on a Saturday. He was also wearing jeans, and the maintenance people always wear black pants. He kind of gave me the creeps, so I closed my office door and stayed there. I could hear the echo of him walking back and forth for a while. He tried the handle on my office door twice. I heard the beep of him try to open my office door with a keycard twice. It turns out that he didn't work there. He is the grown son of one of the workers and was walking around the building trying to steal stuff. But his dad's keycard won't open any offices because it's a handyman card with limited access. Handymen have to make appointments and you have to let them in, unlike cleaning people or the techs maintaining the servers who can open any door. He got caught on camera and security checked to see whose card had tried to open the doors. The guy fined for trespassing and his dad got fired. Oh crap, dad's pee. So my major has a computer lab that is 2 stories underground. I have spent countless hours using these computers and I have spent nights down in what us students call the dungeon. One night, around 2 AM, I went down the hall to go get some water. The lights use motion sensors. As I was filling my water bottle, at the end of the hall the last light turned on. So there was this dark gap between me and this last light way down the hall. I was mildly creeped out, but then I saw something move in the darkness between me and the light. I proceeded to nope my way home promptly. No. That's the part in the horror movie where I squeeze the pillow against my chest and use the edge of my pillow to partially obscure my vision. I couldn't imagine experiencing this eye roll. I feel the need to grab a pillow just reading this story. I work at the Discovery Channel telescope in the middle of the Coconino National Forest. A typical night is usually myself, the telescope operator, and an astronomer. One night, during hunting season, we had a curious elk that was wandering around the security fence perimeter. We could hear it bugle over the audio feed from the observation deck and hear it crunching around when we went outside. This lasted for about 30 minutes before it finally wandered off. About an hour later we heard several gunshots nearby. Bad because there is no hunting for 1.5 miles around the facility. Signs are posted everywhere. Given that the astronomer that night was taking long exposure, 2 hours each image, I decided to go walk around the inside perimeter of the security fence. I had my red LED headlamp on and kept seeing the glistening eyes of elk all around the facility. Seemed to me like they were wanting to come in to hide from the huntress. Creepy, but not the worst part. Did the same thing about an hour later. Walked the inner perimeter and looked for the eyes. They were all gone. Right as I'm about to head back in I hear someone clear their throat. Standing at the entrance to the facility, other side of fence. This dude simply asked, "You seen dem elk round here? I've been watching them come up the hill. Really need some elk." I informed him that I haven't seen them, but he called me a liar and said I was protecting them. He sat there at the gate till twilight, then wandered off into the woods. Told the Forest Service about it the next day and they said they've had reports of a man going onto people's property and stalking prey, even going as far as hanging out on their porches. We now have IR cameras outside the observatory and heavy duty security features on the entrances because of the weirdo. Oh heck no. That hits too close to home. I regularly camp alone in Coconino and it's creepy enough already. I have a workspace is an old former madhouse, built by monks, which had been turned into a hospital for SS personnel in World War II. Lots of spooky history, a huge building with long hallways and a stern 1920s architecture. Brick archways, ugly sculptures of dead monks. I usually work late, until 3 in the morning, and I am usually the last person to leave the building. One night in winter, I locked my room and went to the exit. All the lights were off. The wind was howling. Suddenly I heard the sound of running footsteps in the distance. Lots of running footsteps, and then it was quiet again. I went down some stairs and there I saw little red lights blinking on the other side of a long dark hallway, just for a moment, then they were gone. I was pretty freaked out at this point. I walked faster in the direction of the exit, then I heard those running footsteps again. I turned a corner and suddenly a bunch of kids were screaming in my face. Almost had a heart attack. Turned out the kids were playing laser tag. They borrowed the keys to the building from one of their parents. They had these laser guns with red lights to shoot each other with and were chasing each other through the dark building. They thought the building was deserted and almost crapped themselves when this big guy in a trench coat suddenly appeared in front of them. Somewhere some kids are telling this story from the opposite point of view. Worked overnights as a master control operator in my youth. One night, around 3 AM I catch sight of the camera we have aimed at the back door and there's someone standing there wearing a scream mask staring at the camera and not moving. I go to the back door, magnetic sealed and a deadbolt for overnight. Door is next to impossible to force open, and look out the peephole and there's no one there. Head back to control and see them walk back into frame, wave at the camera and then walk away. Called the cops. They found nothing and the camera doesn't record. Live feed only. Dang it, that's the job I have now. I keep an eye on the security cameras all night. Sometimes I see a guy appear out of the bushes then walk off camera into the darkness. Last week a disheveled guy came running into our parking lot, ran in a confused circle, then went back the way he came. In all my years as a locksmith I've been in plenty of uncomfortable situations. Domestic disputes, business breakups. I still hate Fridays even though I've been retired from locksmithing for 5 years because of all the jobs I had to do locking fired employees out. I've been in plenty of places someone would tell me was haunted. I would just think they were nuts and go about doing my job as fast as I could to get away from them. Only one time in 20 years did I ever feel like I was in a haunted place. I spent the first 15 years on the job in Metro Atlanta. I moved to a more rural area in the state for the last 5. This house was probably built in the 1930s. All brick. Directly next to a main road. Still a 2-lane road mind you, just pretty heavily traveled. Lots of traffic. It looked like a plain place. Nothing uncanny about it from the exterior, although the overgrown shrubs and trees gave it weird shadowy places that I took no notice of at first. Inside the house was completely different. It seemed to be refashioned at multiple times but nothing ever tied together. It had an odd angular feel to it. Walking into that place you could feel the air change. With every door open it felt like air didn't move at all. Usually in my work slamming doors were a constant. I'm standing at one door, someone else opens a door in the house and interior doors slam because of the pressure change. Unblocked interior doors did not do that in this place. I walked into the kitchen and nearly scared a carpenter to death. Frick, I can't wait to get out of this house, he says. You'll see what I mean. He gathered his crap and left before I got back to my van with all the lock cylinders. From the moment I walked back into that house I felt like I was being watched. It was silent, and several times I felt like something was reaching for me. That electric tingle you get watching someone slowly move their hand to your body. I went into overdrive and hauled butt as fast as I could. Job done. The funny thing was I had probably passed that place 1,000 times. Like I said, it was a heavily traveled main road. It was in an isolated stretch, and not only had I never noticed it, I realized passing it a few weeks later that even though it was obviously there and easy to see, I still managed to overlook it when I was watching for it. It's like the place didn't want to be seen. A couple of months later I get back to the shop and noticed a co-worker had been there that day. This guy was a former Marine gym rat and as tough as they come. He comes in later and we are bullshitting around, and then I ask him what he thought of that house. He made a face like I asked him about his worst memory and said that it was the creepiest house he'd ever been in. I just let it go, but I also never went back there. This might be the creepiest of them all. There's a Stephen King novel, Black House, which is sequel to another novel, The Talisman, that features a house that doesn't want to be seen. Creeporama. I was working in Antarctica at a station with an elephant seal molting ground. I thought I had left something in a shipping container by the docks, next to the elephant seals. Mindful of my safety and being a bit lazy, I grabbed a ute and drove down there at midnight. I parked and left the vehicle running with the lights on. As soon as I got out I realized it was seriously dark. No moon, no building lights. Can't see your hand in front of your face, dark. I hear heavy breathing coming from all around me, and I can hear the 2-ton bastard starting to move. Whatever I forgot waited until the next day. Oh, the moon was out alright. There were just that many seals. This happened a few years ago when I was working at a car dealership. Our business had just moved into a new lot down the road and the cars were parked in an open air parking garage. One way in and one way out with one set of stairs which was right by the entrance. So I'm hanging out at the entrance and I hear a car door slam. I found it strange since no cars had driven in and no one had gone up the stairs. So I start walking up the stairs and I hear another door slam shut. I'm thinking WTF is happening. Next day I tell my co-workers what happened and they all think I'm just delusional. Fast forward a week later, I had to travel down the road to another dealership to pick up some parts. Dealership I went to had just moved out from where my company had moved in. I walked down to the parts department and grabbed my part. As I'm walking away, the guy behind the counter asks if I've worked the night shift yet at our new place. I told him I hadn't. He quickly responded with, "Be safe, that place is haunted." I immediately got goosebumps and proceeded to tell him what I had experienced just a week prior. He said it was normal and you get used to it. Freaked me the frick out. I work as a 1-to-1 in a hospital. Pretty much just watch to make sure the PT doesn't rip out their tubes, and I was working nights, so it's basically a patient and myself in a dark room. One night I was with a patient in a double room but the other bed was empty, though I couldn't see the other bed because a curtain divided to the beds for privacy. Middle of the night the nurse came in and asked if I needed anything cause my call bell light was on. I then told her that I never pressed the button and it turned out it was the bell from the empty bed. The nurse just said, "Oh, that's creepy," and just left. I was freaked out the rest of the night, lol. LOL, I woulda been like, "B, you ain't leaving me in here with some creepy crap going on." I used to work as a night janitor at a student union. Skirting tables for events was part of the gig. I was scanning my floor for what needed to be done that night and went into a room annex. Long thin room with one wall entirely made of glass facing the river. I approach a skirted table that's against the glad wall and hear snoring. Sounds funny though. I think it's on my radio. Assume someone fell asleep at work and rolled on the talk button. Standing there for a few seconds trying to figure it out, I realize there's a homeless man sleeping under the table. His snoring was climbing the glass window and bouncing off the ceiling. That's why I couldn't figure out when the sound was coming from. If you've ever thought you were completely alone only to find out you're within arm's distance from another person, your body becomes one big goosebump and your butthole puckers tighter than a dolphin's. It was freaky. How do you know how tight that is? Isolation in dark room for one day and one night. Woke up at night with an illuminated shadowy figure at the foot of my bed and then it disappeared. I know it's a hallucination though cause there was no light for it to happen. I work nights in a large warehouse-like store. It's just me and 2 others in the store at any given time. We used to have buttons all over the store that would page for help for our customers. I've been working at this location for 5 years and the supervisor for 3 of those years. Once a year we will have one go off. These things are not plugged in at all. Removed from the system in my first 3 weeks. They still go off sometimes. That one is more than likely a crossed wire somewhere in the building. The disconnected one has an exposed wire that is touching another live exposed wire and is sending the signal as though the disconnected one is active. It goes off because it thinks the circuit is completed, like it would when the button on the other end is pressed. I was photographing a waterfall in a deep basin. I was the only one in the basin. I was alone from 6 PM to 10:30 PM. The trail that comes in was right up against a rock face that was straight up and over 400 feet high. When I was heading back up there was bare wet human footprints up the stones of the trail. I got to a spot where I seen muddy footprints leading into the brush. A few moments later I heard a blood-curdling scream from the same bushes. The sound to me sounded like a mountain lion. They are common in the area. I ran faster than I've ever ran before. I called rangers to my mile marker and I've checked back since then. No missing persons reports have been filed, nor was anyone's car in that area that night. Easily one of the scariest experiences I've had. That's a pretty common Sasquatch encounter. I was working in a SIF. A secure, electromagnetically shielded and soundproof room for doing high security work. Such facilities have extremely strict and onerous rules for entry and exit, so basically you only go in if you have to, and there are 2-person rules that make it desirable for you to stay in if there are few people inside. One day, after being cooped up inside for hours, we exited the SIF. The halls of the building were completely empty. Other labs were completely empty. The break room was completely empty. It was zombie movie Twilight Zone creepy. Freaking out, we went to another part of the building which had windows. Outside we saw a blizzard with over a foot of snow on the ground and a massive amount still coming down. And my roommate, having his car pushed through the snow to exit the parking lot. The same roommate I had carpool to work with. This was before cell phones, so I bolted down the steps and out to the parking lot, in dress shoes, and barely caught him before he drove away. I spent some time in a monitorized room with nothing but a mattress and a toilet in there, officially in a psych ward for troubled teens, but that was more like prison. After 2 days already of just laying there on the mattress, you just feel how you lose your mind. You feel that paranoia cause everything you do is on camera, pointing straight down at you while sleeping, while taking a crap. That's when you realize that you can actually lose your mind, is when you will appreciate sanity. Worked overnights at 2 different 24HR residential treatment centers for teens, aka poltergeist soup. We, staff and clients, would see and hear things people during the middle of the night, almost every night. I remember when I worked at a drug and alcohol rehab facility. It used to be a nunnery attached to a church. I used to hear women singing through our speaker that communicated with our doorbell for visiting hours. I could see through the window of the door from where I would be sitting, and there was never anything there. I have a bunch more. Those places were full of weird crap. My current job is not exactly physically isolating, but more of socially isolating. I'm working as a caretaker for a home full of disabled adults. I'm the night shift, and my job is to do some cleaning and make sure things go smoothly while the clients are sleeping. My job is about 8 hours of nothing all night, followed by a few hours of cleaning in the morning and helping clients get ready for their day program work. In the last few months, we've had some strange stuff happen. One night, I heard what sounded like a person crying in one of the clients' rooms, only to find out they were asleep. They don't have a TV in their room either, so I'm not sure what the noise could have come from. The next shift, while talking to one of the day staff before they left for the night, they told me about how the day before, after his clients had gone to bed, and just before I had arrived, he had heard someone walk from the garage, through the house, and into the room he was in. He turned around from what he was doing to talk to who he had assumed was a manager showing up to grab something, but no one was there. He said he searched the house, but never found anyone. Cool. 2. We have a nonverbal client, who has a lot of dolls and toys in her room. The other day, when I came into her room to wake her up, she had a new doll lying in bed with her. She kept rolling on it or pressing on it while getting out of bed, and it would make that awful baby doll laughter noise. I knew right away I was not a fan of this doll. Later, at the very end of my shift, the day staff arrived and drove all the clients to their day program. I was alone in the house again, and went to clean up any mess left in the clients' rooms. I start cleaning the nonverbal client's room, and see the baby doll sitting on a chair in the other corner. I start to clean. From across the room, it begins laughing. I say out loud, "Nope. Stop that." It stops, and starts laughing a few seconds later. I say, in as firm a voice as I can manage, "I'm not gonna put up with this crap," and walk over, open it up, and switch off the battery pack. 3. Just this week, I'm in the kitchen at the start of my shift and keep seeing, from my peripherals, what appears to be a small dog in the hallway, but I see it maybe 4 times. Usually, I figure things like that are my imagination, and this is no exception, but 4 times is a lot, so I go and check it out. No dog. About an hour later, I'm in the garage and talking on the phone with someone. It's about midnight, and they haven't gone to sleep yet. There's a pause while talking. When they say, "What was that?" I, as calmly as I can, say, "Yeah." What they respond, it sounded like a dog panting into the phone. Now I am spooked, but trying not to seem like a total weirdo, I just say, "Huh, no, I didn't hear that." We get off the phone very soon after. and I go sit in the house with the lights on. You should look more into the meaning of the dog. I don't know why that gives me such a bad feeling, but it does. I've been working in my trade for about 20 years. It can be difficult to focus when all the young bucks are asking you questions and blaring terrible music, so I tend to start work when everyone else leaves for the night. I started hearing sounds upstairs like people talking, walking, opening doors. I dismissed it as my imagination for a few days, but it got to be too much to ignore, so I started investigating when I would hear things. Never found anything. Thought I was going crazy. Turns out, one of the guys that lived near the shop made a hidey hole nest up in the attic to hide from his girlfriend like some kinda dumb but Phantom of the Opera. Dumb but Phantom of the Opera got a big laugh from me. Perfect. Thanks. I was working 2 jobs on Black Friday, and after my first job at the mall was over, 12 AM to 6 AM, I headed to my other job. It was at a local beach shop in an old house. It was still dark when I got there and we didn't open until 10, so I went inside to go sleep on the futon upstairs for a couple hours. When I opened the back door, I could see the silhouette of a person standing in the back room. They were about 20 feet away from me, but the street light was shining in through the window behind them and I could see it perfectly. I froze for a couple seconds thinking someone had broken in, then flipped on the light by the door. The silhouette vanished as soon as the light came on and I said, "Oh frick that," and went to sleep in my car instead. Shadow people are freaky. I used to work overnight as a dispatcher system monitoring. Most days we had 2 people per shift. Pretty much the only reason we wouldn't would be if someone was sick or something. Most nights were completely uneventful, basically did nothing for 8 hours. One night around 1 AM I hear screaming like some girl is getting murdered. My co-worker and I both start checking cameras, nothing. I grab my radio and start running though the building to find this girl. Ran down to the first floor before I realized it was coming for the back parking lot. I exit the building expecting to have to fight someone with a knife or see a debauchery or some crap. What I actually find is a girl alone in her car just screaming and crying. I find out she just wanted to vent and was seriously okay. She thought no one would be in the office park at 1 AM. I promptly told her to knock it off as it was absolutely terrifyingly and to please leave. So not really that scary, creepy, strange at the end of it all, but it was absolutely the worst 2 minutes of my life as I was trying to find the screaming. Or, I feel kinda bad for the girl. Poor thing needed a place to vent. To start off, I love listening to true crime podcasts. This summer I worked, by myself, in a greenhouse at my university that was on the top 9th floor of this building. To even get into the building, you need card access, but to use the elevator you need card access and a key. Over the summer, almost 0 people were ever on campus, and especially not up on this floor or even in the building for that matter. After probably 6 hours of working alone on the top floor of this building and listening to creepy murder stories, I was pushing my cart to the elevator, a massive industrial freight elevator that no one else uses, and I scan my card and wait for the elevator to reach my floor. I can hear it coming, and it's taking a while, so I'm still listening to this podcast about some serial killer. Once it's finally at the 9th floor, I get ready to open the outer door and happen to peer into the little window and see something inside staring at me through the window. I screamed and jumped back probably 2 feet before I realized it was just another research student coming up to use the greenhouse. Being alone for 6 hours and only hearing scary stories of people getting killed really messes with your nerves, lol. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.